Okay, good day, guys. How you doing? Welcome to A.K.D Studios, where we define the best in the world of medical sciences. Today, we'll be looking at something very important: the basics in every medical practices, the cell, and it will be an introductory part and directly from our studio, the A.K.D Studios. So, I want you guys, after this video, please click on the like button, notification, ring the bell and subscribe. Please just subscribe to get more of the videos and more of everything. I don't want you to miss any lecture, because this lecture will be subsequent classes. After finishing this, we'll post more on cells and more on cells. And I know even with all these things, no matter how much you want to forget, you can never forget. So thank you for that. So let's move on to the lecture. That's what we came here to do. That's the business of the day. So let's get on to the business as proper. So the cell, what is our basic knowledge about the cell? How do we see the cell? What are the facts about the cells? What is the function of the cell? And what are the components of the cell? These are the things we'll be looking at cell, the introductory part. So let's get into business. The cell. Looking at this picture, you see a cell basically is a combination of structures, components, all things together, working in a basic function all together. But how do they come in place? What is a cell actually? We just say a cell is this, is that. What is a cell? So, fact about cell. Cell is the smallest unit that has all the characteristics of life. Let's talk this way. What is a life? A life is anything that's breathes, that has all the characteristics of life. But all the characteristics of life are generated from the cell. So a cell is the smallest unit that has the characteristics of life. So generally, in a general definition, a cell is defined as the structural and functional unit of life. So let's put it in this way: of every function of every unit in the body in a life, cell is the smallest. Come to think of it, we have a chicken moving at a pace, moving at a speed. All the muscle contraction, all the digestion, all the thinking are performed by cells that are coming together to form a particular structure to bring out the function. So every function is as a result of the cell, and every structure is as a result of the cell. That's why we say cell is defined as the structural and functional unit of life. Or we can put it in a more normal sense as cell is defined as the anatomical and the physiological unit of life. So the number of cells in the body is about 100 trillion. It's very uncountable, very plenty in the body, very much, and that gives us the sense of complexity in the body, so as to perform many functions. So now the function and structure of its cells is dependent on the region and the system in which it is found. This simply means the function of its cell. In the cell, cells are categorized into many types. Into types, we have the neuron, that's the nerve cell. We have the cell of the liver. We have the cell of the muscles. We have the cell of the cartilage. We have red blood cells. We have the white blood cells. All these cells are different from each other based on their function, what they do. You notice the function of a normal cell, or let me say the function of a muscle cell is particularly different from the function of a neuron. Okay, I hope you're getting something I'm trying to say here. So now the function of a neuron is also different from the function of Kupffer cells. So their function is relatively different based on their function, based on their places, their region in which they are found, and also based on the system in which they are formed. So let's move on. More fact about cells. Cells has been in existence since the beginning of life in our universe, and cells in human are backbone of every organ in the body. You see, since the existence of life, as we said earlier in the subsequent slides, it was told to us that cell is the basic unit of life. So since the existence of life, cell has existed to be the smallest and the functional unit of a cell of a life. So it has to be in existence, and cell is the backbone of every organ in the body. You see, whatever happens to a cell, it starts at the cellular level. That's why administration of drug and everything are towards the cellular level. They are not to a particular organ, but to the cells in that organ. So all cells are the backbone of every organ. The cell fails, then the whole organ is gone. Let's give it example now. In example of nephron in the kidney, when they say kidney failure, renal failure, all sort of failures, acute and chronic, all these things are not what happens to a particular kidney, but what happens in the cellular level. For example, there is blockage in the glomerulus, which is in the glomerulus of the nephron, and nephron is the small cell of the kidney. There is blockage in the glomerulus. What happens? There won't be adequate filtering of plasma, and that will lead to a condition. So all those kind of things are at the cellular level, and that's why cell is the backbone of every organ. So aggregation of cells form the tissue to form, aggregation of tissue forms the organ, aggregation of organs form the system, and system the comparison of every system in the body gives a functioning man. So cell was first viewed under a light microscope by Robert Hooke in 1865. It was first viewed by that man. So let's move on to the subsequent slide. Characteristics of cells. What are those things cells do? What are the things it does by itself? Cell needs oxygen and nutrition. Okay, cell needs oxygen and nutrition for every metabolism that cell carry out. For everything that carry out, it needs oxygen and nutrition. And this oxygen are transported to extracellular fluid, which is a fluid surrounding the cell membrane, surrounding the cell, and all these things are necessary for the normal functioning of the cell. So it produces its own energy by oxygen and nutrition it has received. As said in number 1, it produces its own energy in form of ATP just to drive the normal functioning of body daily, and it eliminates carbon dioxide and other product of metabolism. After production, there is always release of metabolism. So you should know this by your basic knowledge in biology, that everything that happens, for every metabolism there must be waste product, and even in chemistry too. So all these waste products, byproduct, the cell eliminate them and send them out. For carbon dioxide, they are exchanged into the plasma to the blood. The blood carried it to the respiratory part, which is to the lung, where it is exchanged for oxygen and exhaled out of the body, and other metabolic waste as well. So now cell shows individual response to entry of invaders. For example, in immunity, once there is a kind of invader in the cell, as we say, anything that happens to the cell started at the cellular body. So cell shows a kind of individual response, the way they bind to it. So we have the innate immunity and the acquired immunity, in which the innate immunity is just born with the cells. They have this kind of response they give to invaders so as to protect the body from disease. So cell reproduce by division. Every cell they reproduce by division by the presence of centrosome and nucleus. Only an exception, neuron. And this neuron, according to recent research, has shown there are some neurons that have shown a sign of reproducing. They reproduce. Normally, in general view, it has been noted that neurons, they do not reproduce. The number of neurons that existed in body, the only thing that happens is just the degeneration of neurons. That's why we have in older people, they can't control some part of the body due to generation of neurons, because neurons can be regenerated. But in recent research, it shows to us that some neurons actually they regenerate, like they reproduce and they divide. And we hope this actually works, because this will lead to a breakthrough in major scientific problems. So components of cells, this is where we really look deep into. As you can see here, there are structures here as in the component of cells. So component of cells, as we talked earlier, we talked about the cell, we talked about the characteristics. Now we want to look at the structure of cell. You see, cell contains many tiny organs, and in this sense, these organs are not called organs, they are called organelles, because they are substructures of the cells. And every component are suspended in a kind of fluid which is called the cytoplasm. Actually, there was this question that people used to throw that try to cause a kind of a kind of confusion, difference between cytoplasm and cytosol. So all these kind of things are those things in which we have to be careful about. So I'm not really going to that, but a cell contains organelles, and these organelles are responsible for the functioning of the cell. Each organelle has its own role to play in the functioning of the cell. So now the cell is banded, or let me say it's protected. All the organelles in the cell are protected by what is known as the cell membrane, which bands the cell all around, and it's mostly a lipid bilayer. That is, it's a lipid bilayer, and therefore it doesn't allow things that are not supposed to come inside except on basis in which they are allowed to come inside through stimulations of the cell wall. So let's look into the organelles that are found in the cell. We have the Golgi apparatus, we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum, we have the nuclear envelope, we have the nucleus, we have the lipid droplet, we have the mitochondria, the lysosome, we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, we have the centrosome, we have the secretory granule. So let's try to have a brief analysis of what they really do before we look, and in subsequent classes I'm going to give you detailed analysis on each and every one of them, but for today we'll just look at their basic function and we round up the class. So Golgi apparatus, their major function, as you can see here, they are just known for packaging of 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 of, synthesized products which are released from the endoplasmic reticulum. They package them into secretive vesicles so that they will be released by exocytosis. They package them. So that's the function of Golgi apparatus. So we look at the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So generalizing endoplasmic reticulum are just interconnected networks of fibers, and their major function is just they have a vast surface which makes them very in control during metabolic reactions. And there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum. We have the rough and the smooth. For the rough endoplasmic reticulum, it acts ribosome attached to its surface, making it to look rough, and in other words, it's called in textbook you see them called granular. For the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they are called granular, while the soft endoplasmic reticulum, they are called agranular because they don't have any ribosome. So for the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they have ribosome, and ribosome is known for the synthesis of protein. So rough endoplasmic reticulum are majorly known for synthesizing protein, while the smooth endoplasmic reticulum are majorly known for the synthesis of lipid. So let's move on to other ones. We have the mitochondria. The major function of mitochondria is the production of energy, generation of energy, and they do this by presence of some enzymes which are responsible for the production of energy. We have the lysosome. Lysosome is just like let me say the burner house. Don't let me use the burner house, that seems more unethical. Let's use the lysosome are just they have the digestive function. That is, they break down every unnecessary waste in the body, in the cell. They break them down all things that are not needed anymore in the cell. They break them down. All worn out organelles, they break them down. All worn out Golgi apparatus, they break them down because they contain digestive enzymes, and through the digestive enzymes they break everything down. And in some other parts of the body, especially in the bone cells, during the absorption of calcium, lysosome are the ones that release proteolytic enzymes and juice which digest the membrane, the inner matrix of the bone, so as to release calcium. So their function is just digestion. They are very powerful indeed. So let's move on to lipid droplet. There are lipid droplets in the cells too. We have the secretory granules. Secretory granules are responsible for transmitting the 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 newly synthesized product, especially enzymes in most cases, towards the cell membrane before they are released in a process called the exocytosis. The central the centroles are found very close to the nucleus. They are very close to the nucleus in most senses. They are found there majorly, and they support the nucleus. So the nucleus is found majorly at the center of the cell, and the major function of the nucleus is just the reproduction of a new cell, and majorly the transcription of gene for the production of new substances, especially protein in the cell. So the region in which they are found and everything, those are the things in which I've explained here. So there are other structures that are not really enlisted in this diagram. So let's move on to the next slide. So now, cytoskeleton are like a network of fibers or fibers in which their major function, not just only to they provide a kind of function to support the cell. They support the cell, they make it stand, but also they give shape to the cell. You see, cells are of different shapes and sizes. Or don't let me use size. They're of different shapes. For example, we have the neuron. The shape of neuron is different from the shape of normal cell. The shape of normal cell is different from the shape of muscle cells. So all these cells are different by the difference in their cytoskeleton. And we have the cytoskeleton filament is divided into three. We have the microfilament, the intermediate filament, and the microtubulus. Example of microfilament is the actin, which is majorly found in the muscle, in skeletal muscles, which are responsible for the contraction, the sliding over. We have the intermediate protein in several intermediate filament, they are found in several protein. Then we have the microtubulus, they are found in tubulins. So now the basic function of cell, what they do. They are responsible for gene transmission. They are responsible for generation of energy through the process of mitochondria. Signal transduction by that is done by cell membrane, sending of signals from one cell to another. Then synthesis of protein and other materials. So in subsequent classes, we'll look at all these functions in a broader scale, so that we can understand more about the topic, the cell. Understanding the cells give us a direct view on other topics as we go along in classes. So just stay tuned to the channel. Please subscribe, tell your friend more about the channel, press on the like button, and so that you can get more notifications. Please view again. If you have any questions, just send it to this channel. We are always there to answer you of everything you think you don't understand. So till next time, I remain online. We are from A.K.D Studios.